Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Demetrius behind the lens, and I'm back with another episode of the Creative Vibe Podcast, episode 12 to be exact. And today, I've got somebody who really defines this program, somebody who is has their hands in a lot of different things. Some people know him, some people don't, but he's a multi-platinum music producer. He's a motivational speaker. His messages are always positive. His energy is always humble, but yet he's out here moving. You know, he's worked with over 100 artists spanning from J-Lo to 50 Cent to Justin Bieber. He's Trey Songz music director. He's also a drummer, goes on tour around the world, resident DJ, and one of the best guys that I've met in this industry, bar none. Someone that's always showed me mad love and mad respect and always supported what I've done in some capacity. Without further ado, for the UK and for the rest of the world, I'd like to introduce the one and only Amadeus. What's good? What's good?
Man,
What's good?
that was an amazing introduction, my brother. I'm humbled. I'm grateful. Blessed to call you a brother. Blessed to call you a friend. And, thank you for all of the accolades. But I definitely, before we even get started on me, man, I want to salute you. I'm proud of you, my brother. I love the fact that you've created this amazing platform for people like myself to share the story, because sometimes people can hear the music. They may know the name, but it's always a great thing to be able to put the face to the name and be able to hear the story behind, someone's success. So thank you for this opportunity. I know we've been trying to make it happen for quite some time, but God timing is everything. The time is now. I'm excited to be here, and thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, King.
Man, no doubt, man. You have so many, have you obviously have your bio here, and I have so many different things that I've known of you from, throughout my years of working behind the camera and things like that. And I used to always just see you along the way. We
Right.
literally met just by oh snap, like okay, and you were just somebody that was cool that I would see, and then it
Right.
became like, I'm a producer, or this and that, or yo, you heard about him, or I'll come across some work that someone's talking about you, or we'll see each other at the same events,
Right.
and it was always always love, and then diving into your resume and the things that you've done, the people you worked with, and the amount of dedication and hard work it takes to do that, coming from where we come from, coming from where you come from, the Bronx. That's a very commendable thing, inspiring thing for
Thank you,
myself,
my brother. Thank you.
and I think for others around the world. And me being in the UK, I thought, why not at some point sit down and talk to my brother about his career and let some of the young producers out here, because the UK is quite hot right now,
Absolutely.
uh, you know tap in and dive in with you about all production, about your journey and your story, and what went into making you Amadeus the person you are today.
Love that, my
So
brother.
yeah, what I like to do is I know tons of people know you, but there's millions of people who still don't know the
Absolutely.
Amadeus story. So I like to go back to the beginning and just talk about the early days, where you're from. I know you're from the BX, so shout out to New
Big
York and
Bronx
the
energy.
Bronx all day.
Big Bronx
Yes, sir.
energy.
Home of hip hop,
Yes.
as many know. Uh,
Absolutely.
so but how was life for you growing up, at the time that you did, and how did you get into music?
Absolutely. So I'm
Sons.
like you said, I'm from the Bronx, 169th Street, Washington Avenue to be exact. Lived in a few buildings over there, 1309, 1451, 1460, 1420. So that was, where I grew up at. Very tough neighborhood. Very tough neighborhood.
Mm,
My parents were very hard on us. Definitely wanted us to be something with ourselves, make something with ourselves, be successful, not to come to, the area and what we were surrounded by as little kids. We went to Catholic school. I went to Catholic school all my life, so I had to dress up, wear the slacks, the shoes, the dress shirt, the tie.
hmm
It was very annoying, but grateful for that because I was obviously molded me into the person that I am today. And it was in fourth grade. I had to choose a musical instrument, and I wanted to learn how to play the trumpet or the saxophone. Was absent on the day that we got a chance to choose our musical instruments, and went the next day. Those slots were already filled for those instruments. Only thing left was the violin and percussion. Now, me growing up in the Bronx, me being from the hood, I was like, listen, I'm already a target. I'm already having to dress up each and every single day. I'm getting laughed at and mocked because I'm doing that. The last thing I'm gonna do is add a violin case to
Yeah,
that
yeah, to
scenario,
that. Yeah, yeah, I get
you
it.
know? And it's crazy because, and I'm in fourth grade. So the fact that that's my train of thought, unfortunately, like that's how I had to think as a little kid, is really crazy. You know that I had to have those type of thoughts and mindfulness in regards to my surroundings. So I went with percussion. I didn't know what it was. I just chose that because I wasn't choosing the violin for for circumstances that I explained,
Yeah.
and went into the room, learned that it was rhythm. I grew up as a little kid because you see baby pictures of me with the drums and drum sets and
Mm-hmm.
drumsticks. So, but it wasn't a passion. It wasn't a love. It was just something kind of cool. But fourth grade, picked up the drumsticks, and fell in love with that instrument, fell in love with music and rhythm and hip hop, and that was kind of the start of what it was for me as a musician. And obviously being from the Bronx, the birthplace of hip hop, made a ton of sense. Used to race home every day to watch Video Music Box with Ralph McDaniels to see all of the hip
Yes.
hop videos and KRS-One and Black Sheep, Naughty by Nature. These are the videos that I saw and it was inspired by. And me being a drummer, it just made sense, for me to be a producer. You know what I'm saying? And make beats and be a part of music and the game from a musician standpoint.
That's fire. I mean, to be honest, the drums is probably the illest thing anyway. I mean, coming from people of color and people of background, drums and stuff, that's kind of in us anyway. So that probably just
Yeah,
fit anyway to be
right.
what it is. And
The
hip
heartbeat.
hop,
It's the heartbeat. You know what I'm
yeah, it's
saying?
the
It's the
heartbeat.
heartbeat.
Yeah,
Can't do
yeah.
nothing
So
without the beat. I
definitely.
mean, you can have a acoustic set, but when you're really trying to vibe and get into it, man, the drums is the heartbeat. It keeps everybody on time. It keeps everybody in the rhythm and moving. So it's definitely an important instrument.
Yeah, and if you didn't have that, you was doing the beatboxing and you just
Right.
freestyling.
Right.
So that's
Exactly.
what's up. So now we step forward. So you pick up the drums. How long did it take? Were you like a natural at the drums? Did it take a long time to learn the drums? Like what sort of dedication did it take to
It
have
was a
to be able to
natural thing.
master an instrument? Okay.
It was a natural thing. I picked up the drumsticks. My teacher went around the room to see what other students was able to play the same beat patterns that he was playing, and I
Mm,
was the one student in the class that was able to play every pattern that he played, and it was kind of a cool thing. I didn't really think nothing of it. I'm in fourth grade. I forgot how old I was. It didn't really make a difference to me, but I think what got my attention, which is hilarious, is that the girls in the classroom was kind of really impressed by what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? So
I
at
mean,
the
that
end of the
always
day,
helps. Yeah.
that was the motivation for me to kind of
Mm,
really take it seriously. Like they was really hyped, and I'm like, "Oh, you see?" And I'm like, "Oh, y'all like that? All right, cool." So
mm.
that was like the driving motivation for me to do it. And then the more I did it, I was really comfortable with it. I loved it, and the rest was history.
I think that's the best thing is when you're young and you're able to find something that resonates with you quickly, something that you can easily grasp,
Right.
easily absorb, easily like get into. Because then that from there you can really build a career early, or you can build
Absolutely.
foundation for yourself early. Have
Absolutely.
some vision. So that's excellent that you were able to not only find an instrument but actually absorb it and it becomes second nature and be able to do it because that sets you up for so many different opportunities. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely, my brother.
um, so what was one of your like in terms of production at that time? I'm guessing this is like what you're in high school now, 80s, 90s. Like who's like hip hop is becoming bigger. What
Right.
what what's pulling Amadeus right now? What producers or what artists or what you know what I'm saying? What crews were sort of pulling you in the direction of hip hop? Because I can
Right.
see behind you, obviously you took the inspiration and manifested, and that's a
Amen.
dream for
Amen.
a lot of young men would love to be able to have one. So to
Right.
have multiple is
Right.
a
It's a
true
blessing.
testament. It's a true testament. So what was the early influences for the hip hop? I mean, obviously hip hop, being in the
Man.
Bronx.
From a production standpoint, definitely Puff. Puff had the Hitmen, you know what I'm saying? And they
Yeah.
gave us, the Notorious B.I.G. and Craig Mack and 112 and Mace and Faith Evans and, Total, so many
Mm,
different artists. So like I was really mesmerized back then in regards to what he was able to create. Even he, was an artist himself and created hits like All About the Benjamins and Hypnotize and Only
mm-hmm,
You and Feel So Good. You know what I'm saying? So many records. So that
mm-hmm.
movement was definitely influential for me. The Rough Rider movement was very influential. Shout out to Swiss Beats,
So
another Bronx legend. DMX and Locks and Eve and
mm-hmm.
just movements. Rockefeller,
Yeah.
huge imprint on the game, huge imprint on me. Just Blaze, Kanye, Swiss,
Mm,
DJ Premier,
mm,
Havoc. one of the legendary members from Mobb Deep.
Mm-hmm.
Who else at that time? Molly Mall. And it's crazy because back then I didn't know who Molly Mall is, but I think BET honored him recently,
Mm-hmm.
and was kind of going through some of the records that he created and what he was responsible for, sampling and different things. And I didn't even know that he was behind some of my favorite records. So him, Pete Rock. There's so many, man. Dr. Dre,
Mm.
uh, Rodney Jerkins, that influenced me musically, and Neptune. So I can go on and on and on forever with
Yeah. Yeah.
musicians and producers that influenced me and inspired me. But one thing that I made sure I did was have my own vibe, my own energy, my own name, my own sound. And you can kind of hear the bits and pieces of all of those people that I named and the influence that they had on me musically. But I didn't want to sound like anybody. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So when you go through the roster of artists that I've been blessed to work with, and I'm from New York, I'm from the Bronx, so New York, Fab and J Lo and French Montana and Papoose and Remy Ma and 50 and Dipset, right? But then there's Chris Brown, there's Mike Jones, there's Tiger, there's The Game, you know what I'm saying, and
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
CeeLo Green and all of these different artists, because I never wanted to be uh, boxed in as, okay, he can only do this, he can only do that. This is the
Mm.
style, this is the sound. I always wanted to confuse the listener every time they heard a record produced by Amadeus. I always wanted them to run to the credits, have to read like,
Mm.
oh shoot, Amadeus did this record, because I didn't want to be like, as soon as the beat comes on, oh, that's an Amadeus joint. And there's no disrespect, to any creative or any producer that had a signature sound that once the
Mm-hmm.
beat came on, you automatically knew what it was. I just wanted to just confuse the listener every time and shock them in regards to the different genres and vibes
Mm.
and sounds that I can create.
So do you think that's why you've been able to, I guess, you've been around what you started Platinum Boy Music in was it 2000 at the turn of the
Yeah, yeah.
millennium?
Hmm.
So from then to now, sound machines are different. The way
Right.
you do music is a bit different. It's a lot different actually. There's a lot more plugins. It's a lot more virtual instruments. There's a lot of
Hmm.
different more platforms and programs. How does one stay inspired to still make music? I guess one, two, like not get mixed in with so much new energy that's coming in, and then also the sound has changed. Like, do you still hold on to some of the old cadences of the early 2000s and the 90s? Is it hard to make that transition where things are sound a little different now, or more drill like, more UK like actually? How do you like, how do you stay in it? How do you stay
Right. Like
inspired still at
navigate.
this
Right.
point? Yeah, navigate from that time to this time to still be able to put out music. If an artist to still call you,
Right.
how do you stay in that? How do you stay in that for so long?
I mean, there's a few things, right? I think one is relationships,
Mm-hmm.
that you I feel is one of the most important things to create and develop with an artist is a relationship. Yes, we've created records together, songs together, but it's amazing to kind of stay connected with them and in contact with them, be concerned about their well-being, their mental, the kids, their families. And that's something in a person that I've always been. So I think relationship plays a really important part to that. Being able to evolve, because I've been in the game for 25 plus years. So that's a long time, like you said, from a technology standpoint to a
Mm-hmm.
sound and a vibe standpoint to artists, being in the game, leaving the game, new artists entering into the game and being able to stay relevant as a musician and as a producer. And, you know, I'm definitely stubborn to a certain degree because I didn't jump, ship immediately when all of the doors came and all of the softwares came. I was like, nah, I like being on my MPC. I like having my equipment in front of me. I like having,
Yep.
five keyboards surrounding me. I like being able to play
And
and bring
touch.
live,
Yeah.
yeah, and touch and bring live
Mm-hmm.
musicians in and bassists and pianists and incorporating all of those vibes to it. Like it's a vibe. So it took me a long time to kind of transition. I still haven't transitioned completely. I still have my MPC. Akai has done great with creating, new different types of equipment, kind of having that old vintage vibe, whether it's the Akai keyboard, whether it's the Akai Key 37, I think they just created, which is a standalone machine that has everything
Mm-hmm.
needed within one that you can create in one and still have that same feel of like, yo, I'm really making this and not sitting at a computer telling it what to do and then it's happening. And
Mm-hmm.
it's again, no shots of disrespect to any of the young, the youngins that's here, any of the new wave producers that's came when that was the style or that's the sound. But for me, I still like that old vibe, that musician vibe, because that's what made me successful. And sometimes you got to be careful with jumping over to the different technologies and kind of incorporating that, because it can change your vibe, it can change your sound, it can
Hmm.
change your style, it can change the feel of what you're creating, and that's something that I never wanted to do. And I heard, I forgot who it was, that was a producer, legendary producer, was talking about it, but was talking about how he would always jump to follow the trend and the
Mm.
sound, and would always be buying equipment and learning pieces of equipment. And he was like, yo, I was so busy learning equipment and learning new vibes and new sounds that it took away from my creativity.
It
So
wasn't
while
even
like
making
my
music.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't even making beats. I was so busy learning and trying to perfect this new machine that I'm missing out on albums. I'm missing out on opportunities. My colleagues are like, you know, killing it on their end with what they're doing, because they're focused on like, this is my style, this is my sound. If it ain't broke, I ain't gonna fix it. And that's kind of always been my thing too. So, you know, I dib and dab in it. I like Logic. I like Pro Tools for different reasons. I like Ableton for different reasons, but I still got my software. I mean, I still got my hardware, man, because that's what made me me. And it feels better for me. It feels better for me. And the other thing, just to
Mm.
add to that from a different perspective, is surrounding yourself with new energy and with
Mm.
the youngins. Not saying that I'm old, but I'm older than a lot of the youngins that's coming up in this new modern day of music and technology. So you want to surround yourself with the young kings and queens that are tapped into the now sound, that can educate you on what it is, that educate you on the doors and the plugins and what it is, because I don't know everything. I know what I
Mhm.
know from my era, but this is a new day, this is a new era, this is a new vibe, a new sound. So you don't want to be, act like you know it all. So I bring that in. I stay surrounded by the youngins and the new waves, just to make sure that I'm on top of my game.
Nah, that's fire, man. That's dope. But you know what? I think every artist has their own set of brushes and tools that they use. So you know what I'm saying? That's very
Absolutely,
important.
absolutely.
So going into like, I really wanted to know. So how'd you transition from being like a person who wanted to get into working in this business, which can be quite, it's not like your normal 9 to 5, right? You got to know a lot of things, or you'll get left out, right?
hmm
So how did you get your start? Like, who gave you your first put over to start becoming the titles and the names that we can say that you're attached to the people that you work with? Did you work at a studio in the beginning? Did you like how what was your transition into the actual music business?
So I was blessed, man. I was surrounded by individuals that was a part of the music industry and a part of the game. Whether it was having one foot in and one foot out, or just kind of completely
Mhm.
being on. And I remember just starting to talk about production and beats and making music. And my mom had a family friend by the name of Buck Wild, legendary producer, man, produced for Biggie,
Yes,
Faith, Black Rob, rest in peace,
yes, sir.
Jay-Z. Like, if you don't know Buck Wild, do your research, do your homework. From the
Hmm.
Bronx, DITC, legend. And she kind of was like, yo, my son just keeps talking about this producer stuff and this beat making stuff. And that was what he was doing. And I remember him picking me up one day, man. He picked me up one day and was like, yo, I'm gonna pick you up and see if you really serious about this, man. It's going to be a day in the life of Buck Wild. And picked me up one day. We went to various studios, and he was doing what he does as a producer, going into different studio sessions, playing beats. I think we went and saw Busta Rhymes that day. I think we went and saw Missy that day. I think we went and saw LL Cool J.
Mm.
And he would go in studio, and they would be in their sessions, and he would play beats, and they would pick out which joints they like. He'll leave a copy of it, or they'll make a copy of it, and we'll just bounce around from different studios. And I remember him dropping me off that day and was like, yo, man, what you think? And I was just like, yo, this is it. Like, this
Mm.
is exactly what I wanted to do, man. So that was the kind of like the real introduction, and allowed me to see behind the scenes of how it really went and how it really worked. Fell in love with it. I probably was about 15, 16 years old. And that was when I decided that this is what I really wanted to do, who and what I wanted to be. My parents wasn't in full agreement with it, because they didn't
Mm.
really understand the culture. They didn't really understand what it was. They didn't really understand the millions that can be made from it. I didn't
Mm.
even understand what can be
Mm.
made from it. It just became a love and passion for me, and that's all that mattered for me. And
Mm.
as time went on, and I was able to educate myself and learn the business, I learned like, no, this is a real thing. Like, this is real entrepreneurship. This is real a business, you know what I mean? CEOs where you can really, do this and take care of yourself and provide for yourself and your family and your kids,
Mm-hmm.
kids, kids for your rest of your life if you do the right thing and go about the right way about it. And I knew that, and it was just trying to kind of educate my family and my loved ones on what it was, which was very difficult, to do. But again, I loved
Mm.
it so much that I wouldn't allow anyone or anything to stop me, whether it was my parents, whether it was loved ones, family, friends, girlfriends. I was just like, this is what I want, and I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna
But you're gonna
figure it
get
out.
there.
Absolutely,
That's dope. That's it's like you kind of know. You just know that if you know that you love it, that you're gonna go hard, and it's something's gonna
absolutely,
happen from that. So that's
absolutely.
dope. When did you kind of like start becoming more? When did it come like, all right, I gotta be more business. I gotta understand the business part of this part because a lot of young people, everyone gets in, wants to create, wants to do dope work, wants to be next to the big names, wants to
Right,
meet their favorite celebrities, wants the accolades, but it kind of does take like business and being able to, what I'm saying, know certain things and carry yourself a certain way and do things in
right.
a certain manner. When did you learn that? Like, how fast did you adapt to that side of it, opposed to just becoming a producer, just making the beats? Like,
Pretty quickly, man, because I was making beats for a long time, but once I started shopping beats and like trying to get on albums, like I had to know what was going on. And I remember educating myself with the book Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business, which taught me a
mm,
ton. Taught me about publishing, taught me about royalties, splits, credits, going on albums and percentages and and I wasn't a pro at it, of course, but I learned enough to be able to figure it out and kind of learn along the way. So as I was getting these record placements, I was learning, as I was getting them, how I went. Some of them
mm,
went good, some of them didn't go so good. Like my first placement with Foxy Brown, like her brother. Shout out to Anton Marchand, who's her brother. Shout out to Gavin Marchand as well. I remember at the time, Gavin would work hand in hand with Foxy in the
mm,
studio, was a part of the writing process, was a part of picking beats, excuse me, for her and with her, and just a part of the whole creative process. And I didn't know that, you know what I mean? And we created this record called "Cradle to the Grave," which was the title song for the movie and soundtrack. Cradle to the Grave with
that's
DMX, rest in
dope.
peace.
Yeah, that's
Gabrielle
dope.
Union, Anthony Anderson, really big film. And
Yep.
I remember that record coming out and um, me going to the CD store. I think it was Fye. Me purchasing the CD, opening up the CD booklet, reading the credits, and it had his name and my name. And I was kind of like, blown away by that because I'm like, well, he definitely didn't have anything to do with the creativity or the creation of this beat or producing of this beat, but it said his name and it said my name, and it
Yeah.
just taking a step further. He had, went to Def Jam because of the relationship that he had because Foxy was signed to Def Jam at the time, and he got cut the front end check of that song, the producer fee. So I remember the
Mm,
total for that record was 10 grand. And
mm,
I remember, connecting with the A&R admin person, and she was like, "Yeah, this check was cut already, and it was made out to Gavin Marchand. So the only thing left is the other half of the producer fee, which will go to you." And I'm like, "Well, why am I getting half of this if this is
yeah.
the song and the record that I produced solely?"
Yeah.
And
Why?
was a situation, that was beyond my control. I'm brand new in the game. The relationship was already there with him and Def Jam. They entrusted him with what was told, with which is what he told them. And that was a very valuable lesson that I learned. And it was, something that I honestly couldn't change it. I couldn't really do anything about it because I was fresh out the gate as a musician, as a producer. I didn't know anybody. Um, so it was a learning experience, man. It was a learning experience. I remember being very upset about it, really upset about it because I felt like it was very unfair, and I felt like I was taken advantage of. But as the years went on, I became a got a lot of cool with it about it, and just kind of got the positives out of the situation. This is a big record. Foxy Brown is a legendary artist, an artist that I'm a fan of. This movie was a big deal. So to see my first song in a movie. It played for 26 seconds. You see,
Yeah.
I still remember that still to this day. It was in the soundtrack. The soundtrack went gold. One of these plaques up here is representation of it's over in the corner of it going gold. Actually, right
Yeah.
there. And
That's hard.
I'm it's and it put me on the map. it put
That
me on
was
the
so
map as a
okay. So that
producer.
was the one that put you on the map first.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
how.
So even though that happened, so much positive came out of that, and I was able to hold on to that positivity and to navigate and to hustle my way through the
It's kind of
game.
like they know that though. It's kind of the game knows that, right? If homie
Yeah.
brings you in, he ain't making the beat, but it's like, look, well, this is gonna get you set up. This is gonna set the
Hmm.
table for your next placement for your next one. So
Right.
I'm gonna get what I can out of this for a minute. You're gonna
Right.
take a bit on the chin, but you're gonna be in this, and that you can talk you can talk your stuff because now you've got a record that's on a major film soundtrack. You got your credits there. You made a
Right.
little paper,
I think the
and
only thing, I think the thing that would have made it
yeah,
cool was a conversation. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And I think that, just the transparency of it. Like, listen, hey man,
of course,
you're fresh out the game. We did this record with Foxy. I was in the studio with her. I was part of the writing process, the recording process. So
absolutely,
technically, you weren't there. So technically, I am producing. You know what I'm saying? I am producing
yeah,
in a way. You made the beat, and I was a part of this actual song coming together and it being what it is. So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take that. We're gonna split whatever down the middle. Like I think at that time I would have been on some whatever. All right, cool, man. Like, I'm just happy to be here. Cool. But it would have made the situation more enjoyable and
yeah. It felt
more,
better. Yep.
it would have felt way better if that conversation was had. So I would knowing, I'm knowing what's going on. I ain't got to fight for nothing. I ain't got to chase nothing, chase nobody because,
Why do you think the business is like that, especially amongst our own people? Like, it's funny because we have to deal with opposing issues,
mhm,
let's just say, but then a lot of the times we're still kind of doing that. You know what I'm saying to our fellow
yeah.
producers or directors? Like, why? What do you think that is? Is it
I
a
think it's
business
just taking
model?
advantage. It's just
Yeah,
taking advantage. Taking advantage is a selfish act. It's taking advantage of individuals that may not have the knowledge as of yet to know how it really works, or may not have the power, to change or to actually react to what happened. Because like
hmm,
it happened and that was it. So no matter how many people I called, calling up to the labels, how many emails I sent, like they don't know me. I'm brand new. I'm a youngin. I'm a little kid to them, saying, "Oh, I
yeah.
make this, I made that," speaking against the person that has the
The
accolades already, the
access, yeah,
person
yeah,
that has the access, the person that already had the trust. Foxy was already signed to that label for years, so that
right.
relationship was already built on solid ground. Me coming in the game as a new dude saying, they like, go ahead, man, just take this other half, be grateful, and that's what it was. So
That's
it's hard to avoid that type
yeah,
of thing. Me going through that, I made sure that when I got in the game and me arriving to the level that I'm at today, I'm just honest, I'm transparent. If I'm quarterbacking the play, and this is how I work, this is how I work, this is how it's going down, this is the splits, this is how we busting it down the middle pause. Like it is what it is, and you have the opportunity to say yes or no. You can walk, or you can say, you know what, I'm not mad at this. Let's get it, because of you and your relationship, because of you and what you created, you're allowing me in your space and in your circle, and to get this opportunity, to this placement, whatever it is. Yes, or you can say no, and you can, go figure it out the way you need to figure it out, and come up the way I did. You know what I'm saying? And go through
mm,
the hustle and bustle of getting in the game and getting on these albums, which is a very difficult, hard thing to do. So I just think transparency is everything. Being 100, being honest, saying what it is, and giving people the option of wanting to be a part of it or not.
mm. You state that it's very hard to get these placements. I see we have like Sprite, EA, ESPN, the record with Wale, and then working with like all of these artists, which is what I like about you is it's a wide range. It's like you're
Hmm.
not like, and that's not to say anybody else is less than either, because I
Right.
feel like everybody has their own place. It don't matter. There's
Hmm.
not like I don't really like who's better than, because I feel like
Yeah.
producers, everyone's got to. You might want a premiere sound for that moment, and
Hmm.
then you might not want that. You might want a Timberland sound. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? It just
Exactly.
depends on your vibe and what the agenda is for the day. But
Exactly.
how are you able to like come up with so many different vibes? Because I'm sure being in the studio with Trey is going to be a way different experience from beginning to end. To some degree, I would assume, than being in the studio with 50
Right.
or Buster, let's just say, with his sort of bold energy. So how do you like, are you just sitting, are you like a therapist? You just sit back and let stuff happen? Or do you get in there and are you very like influential on what artists should do and how
Right.
they should, what's your how do you how have you produced for over 100 artists
I
of
just do
these?
my thing, man.
Yeah.
I've always did my thing. I always just put me in a room by myself and let me cook this meal. You know what I'm saying? I don't need a bunch of other different chefs in there. I don't need somebody looking over my back, saying, hey, add a little bit of salt, add a little pepper. I just get in the room and I just do what feels good to me. I create what feels good to me and catch my own vibe with myself and then take those tracks that I've created and circulate around to the different artists that are working on various projects. So and I, another thing that I want, the listeners to know is that I've never created anything for anyone specifically. Never. It's never
Okay.
been my way to create. I create what I want. I make the beats that I like. I have a jam session of my own, in the studio and my own little party. And then after I'm done with creating, I sit back and listen to it and say, well, who can this work for? Who can this, who would be dope on this, and then I would send to those artists. Or I might say, you know what, I might want to challenge artists. I might want to say, hey, this is gonna definitely take you out of your comfort zone, but try it, give this a shot, write a hook to it, write a verse to it, and if you vibe to it, cool. If you don't, cool, but give it a shot. So that's kind of always been my thing. The other side of that is a lot of these records, I've never been in the studio with the artist with, before. So I've created beats, sending out the beats, whether it's back to date myself a little bit, whether it was me mailing out CDs and cassette tapes to
Mm, mm,
handing out those CDs and cassette tapes, bumping into artists in the club or on the street or at the gas station, which I've done. I remember
mm-hmm.
running into the lots at the gas station and jumped in my truck at the time and handed him a beat CD. I gave one to Chic and I gave one to Jadakiss. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? Like, yeah, so that was what it was for me coming up, and then it kind of transitioned into, have internet and being
Emails.
able to
Yeah.
email, beats out and folders and stuff like that. So that's what it kind of was for me. At the beginning, I did get in the studio a little more. I did get in the studio with Mike Jones, Fab. There was some dope artists that Cameron and Dipset to work alongside and create some of those records. But a lot of the records that I created, I was kind of in my own world, created the beat, got the beats to those artists. They did their own thing. Once it was agreed upon that they were going to keep the record, handle the business, and most times I was hearing songs that I produced for the first time when the world was hearing it. So when that CD
Mm.
or that album drop, it'll be some of the first time that I've heard the actual song or the mix, of
And do they do they
of that
let you
record.
do they let you know that yo, we picked your beat is going on this album? Like, so you kind of
Yeah, you'll know
anticipate.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll know that
Okay.
because the business has to be handled. You know what I'm saying? The paperwork has to be handled.
100%. Yeah.
Producer agreement would have to be handled.
Yeah.
So from that aspect, you would know. But I just always hated the fact, like, man, I want to be a part of the mixing process. Bad enough I wasn't in the studio when you recorded the record because I could have had some influence there. But like you mentioned earlier, in regards to how some artists was saying different things, the cadence, the delivery, volume, vibe,
Mhm.
energy, but it is what it is. And at the end of the day, I wanted to be on these albums, so I'm damn sure not going to be like, hey, nah, you can't use it unless I'm in the studio with you, or I want to get on
Yeah.
these albums. So, it comes along with what it is.
Nah, that's dope though. So do you make a bunch of inspiration of music vibes and wait till a certain number is done of beats and then go, you know
Yeah,
what, I'm gonna campaign these out so
correct,
everybody in my network, like how does that?
correct. That
Okay,
was
okay,
kind of like how I did it. Um,
okay.
I would fill up a CD with beats, whether it's 15, whether it's 17, whether it's 20, if it was a little more challenging this time around to get a vibe, and maybe I only got 10 beats, or maybe I only got five, and I felt
Mm,
like they were really dope, and I kind of wanted to take a creative break, just to not overdo it. It depends on what it was. So that's kind of like what my approach was, and it's kind of dope that you asked that, man. But that was definitely my approach. So finished up the CD, and I would take the next few days, pitching it, sending it out to the artists, whether it's actual CDs that I'm mailing out to labels and artists, or whether it was online of me sitting out and emailing beats out all day for the next week, moving it
mhm,
around and circulating because that's an important process too. A lot of producers,
yeah,
think it's all about being creative and making beats all day and just working, and it's like, yo, there's like different things that you have to do
yeah,
in
that
order to be
admin.
successful. Yeah, the
Mhm,
admin, the paperwork, research of finding out who's working on what A&Rs is working on there, make sure you got the contact info for those artists, the managers, the A&Rs. So it's different things you have to do It ain't just about making beats all day and just figuring they're gonna just land on albums. Like there's different processes to it. You know, different days for
Yeah, I'm
different
sure.
things.
Yeah, because you got what you got to get to the managers. They busy. Then you
Hmm.
got to wait for them to hit you back. You got to
Hmm.
find out if you sending the right vibes for the right
Right.
project.
Yeah,
If you're
man.
gonna send the
The
old R and
process.
B record. Yeah, that's a lot, man. So how do you juggle that? And then you got like, for instance, you just came off the tour with Trey in it.
Yes, sir.
What's the name of the tour again? It's the
Oh,
Love.
the
It's
Love Hard tour. Yep, the
the
Love
Love
Hard
Hard
tour.
tour.
Trey Songz, Keisha Cole, K Michelle, Jaheim. Definitely was a super dope tour. Tour in the U.S. We do have some makeup dates in June. So that we got about 4 or 5 shows left, man. But that'll definitely be a dope show. Wish we could bring it overseas, man. Hopefully the powers that be can make that happen because people have definitely been asking for it for us to bring it overseas. But it was
Oh,
definitely a dope
I'm
tour.
sure I'm sure you guys would sell out here because
Oh, absolutely.
they love the old school hip hop and the R and
Yes,
B
they do.
anyway,
Yes, they do.
and it's needed. So, but I was gonna ask, how was the tour anyway? Like, did you have any favorite cities that you love to go to? I always seen the videos of you backstage at like the
Right.
Rockets or the
Yeah,
Pelican
yeah,
spot.
yeah.
Uh, I'm like, he getting ready for the NBA Finals right now.
Right. Like, I
So
had to do the walk in. Like I had to do the walk
yeah,
in
nah, that's dope. That's dope.
different venues. Just kind of wanting to create some cool content, but like natural content. You know what I mean? Like obviously we everybody has to walk in the venue and we have to go to whether it's our dressing room. So I just kind of like compared it to the NBA players that, will walk in and they'd be suited and booted and, go to their
Oh
locker room and
yeah.
get focused in the game. So that was kind of like a cool thing to post content wise, but it was definitely dope, man. Obviously I'm from New York, and we played the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So that
Hmm.
was a really dope experience. I had my family with me for that. Some of the cities like LA was a really dope show. And when I say a dope show, the performance from us too, but also the crowd and the interaction from the crowd because I feel like how if they're not hyped, then not saying we not hyped, but it just takes the energy to a whole nother level when the crowd is on a million. So like LA was dope. New York was dope. Chicago was crazy. Atlanta was crazy.
I bet.
Trying to think who else just nuts. There's so many places. Detroit was crazy. We had a great time. So if I'm not mentioning this city, is not saying that it wasn't a dope show, it wasn't a dope vibe, but it was just certain cities that just had an energy and a vibe that was through the roof where it was so loud, when we got on stage to perform, man. And it was a beautiful thing. And just to kind of get back to what you was asking about balance, it's definitely difficult to do. I've always been a person when I'm on the road touring, I don't produce. Like I don't make
Okay.
beats. I don't go in the studio. I focus solely on my job as a music director and a musician and a drummer because it's a lot, man. You're going from city to city. You exuding a lot of energy on the stage on a nightly basis. You're living on a tour bus, driving from one city to the next. Sometimes, depending on the situation, you're showering at venues, getting dressed at venues. There's no hotels, until you're off. I have the off days, which is not a lot. So it's difficult, man. So I just focus on the music in regards to me and my musicianship, me being a music director, leading the band and leading Trey to make sure that we're giving the fans the best show and experience that we could possibly give them. So that's definitely the balance for me when it comes to that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like what goes into being a music director, and then you got to be the drummer, so you got to know all the records, you've got to
Hmm.
be able to play everything. Obviously, it's all live, so
Right.
you can't mess up. You got to be perfect, and that takes a lot of energy to bang away and to, that's why, like you said, it's important for the crowd to be very powerful because,
Yeah.
we know basketball, we know Knicks basketball. You come to the Garden, half of the win is it's the people yelling and screaming
Energy.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that energy, you know what I'm saying, behind you to kind of give you a reason to push beyond your limits. How what goes into that? Like, what for the young person out there who might be like, damn, I might want to direct a tour. Like
Hmm.
what goes how did you qualify for that? Who asked you for that job? How did you get that,
Right.
coming from making beats and music
Right.
producing?
So Trey and I, we were working on a record. Myself, Mike Jones, Trey Songz. It was Mike Jones' record featuring Trey Songz, and this is Trey like at the beginning of his career, first album out, Gotta Make It, and there was a drum set in the corner, and I kind of just mentioned to him, I was like, "Yo, I play drums, man." one day you're gonna need a band. When you do, give me a call because the music you're making is very soulful, man. And it'll be really dope to have a live band,
Mm.
behind you as you perform. And he kind of heard me. And a year later, I got a phone call from his manager at the time, and he was like, "Yo, you ready to put the band together for Trey?" I was like, "Nope." And he was like, "Well, you told Trey he was gonna put his band together, and he said call Amadeus." And so when you asked about being qualified, I love that you asked that. I was absolutely not qualified. I've never put a band together. I was a drummer, and I just kind of looked at it from like, yo, you're gonna need a band. You know, I'm just gonna call up a few of my guys that I play with in church. And we just gonna rock out. And that was kind of the idea that I had. I didn't ever expect for him to call. You throw this kind of stuff out to artists, and they'll yes you, and then when the time comes, man, they're nowhere to be found. But he really, was a king of his word, and his manager reached out, and I just wasn't prepared. I never had been a music director before. I never put a band together. I just played in a band at church, and it was a dope moment for me because the brother that I called, shout out to my brother Butters, ill music director, ill keyboardist, ill producer as well, songwriter. He was the music director for Casey and JoJo, Case, Leela James. So my idea was I'm gonna call him. He's gonna be the music director. I'm gonna be the drummer as I envisioned it. You know what I'm saying? And we gonna
Mm.
roll. And I called him, and he was like, "Nah, bro, you're gonna be the music director." He was like, "How do you think I earned my stripes? How do you think I became, a music producer? Like I had to, somebody gave me a chance and I figured it out and I learned, my way. And that's what it was. So if he didn't do that, I wouldn't be in this position that I'm in today. So big shout out to Trey Songz, but also a big shout out to my brother Butters for believing in me and wanting to push me in that position and support me. You know what I'm saying? Wholeheartedly. Because you got to think, Trey has never had a band before. I never put one together. So it was a learning moment for both of us, and it was something for us to grow together in where we grew together with this. And this is 16 years in the making of, me touring the world with Trey and being his music director and drummer, man. And it's
Now, how
something
did
that
how
I
did that now how did that happen? Like you and Trey obviously seem like y'all very gonna be very close after all of those years working together. How did y'all get so close? How did that relationship even start? Really, like what?
and that day in the
What?
studio.
Okay.
That introduction of us working on this record a year later, them calling, and then that call turned into, yo, we're gonna do one show. Let's put the band together for this show. Really, really destroyed that show. Did another show, and then the next thing you know, they're like, "You want to go on tour?" And I'm like, "We like, all right, cool."
And
And
that's a whole nother revenue stream outside of production. Then you getting paid to be
absolutely.
that.
But it
That's
wasn't even.
amazing.
I didn't even look at it from that lens. Like for me, it was never a money thing because I didn't understand what it was. It was just a little kid from the Bronx, from the hood, that had this love and passion for drums and beats and rhythm to just do what I love. Like, and that's the crazy part. I didn't understand that there's so much money involved in this until I really got in the game and I'm getting on these albums and I'm getting these really big checks as a youngin, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it was just a beautiful thing. It was just something I wanted to do. It was a goal. It was like a bucket list for me to go play Madison Square Garden, for me to go
Yeah.
play all of these
But once
arenas.
you but once you
Like,
get once you get into that circle and you start creating things that make money for other people, you do
mhm,
get into a circle within it's like, yo, I got an opportunity. I can get you a bag over here. Like, it's not
mhm,
even a thing of it. Like, it's almost like, no, you're good and you're supposed to get it. The other
right,
side of it becomes nice. It's like, all right, let me hook my man up. Yo, we coming on tour because he nasty with the drums and
mhm,
he's good with this. So, you getting that production money. That's cool. Come get some of this extra money. So it's almost
absolutely,
like that's how I like, I like when good business is done like that. And you got people in the game that respect what you do and they have
right,
faith in you enough from what you've done and the work you've put in when it wasn't
right,
so glamorous to be like, yo, now we come get, Fox
absolutely,
5 got this money, come get like it, because
yeah,
it's available,
right,
and it always feels better when you can do it in that way and be like,
absolutely.
all right,
I mean, it's been a tremendous blessing, man. From like you said, from a financial standpoint to traveling and seeing the world and meeting amazing people and fans all over the world, hearing people speaking different languages, seeing different currency, even eating different foods, man.
yeah.
It's a vibe, bro. It's a vibe, and I always tell these youngins like, the block is cool and where you from is amazing, and it's not like your neighborhood, man. But it's a
But
big
you got
world
to
out
get
here.
off of it. Yeah, you got to get
Big
off
world
of it,
out here,
man.
man.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the other side of you, which I always enjoy too, is seeing the like motivation side. A lot of the things you post sometimes they help out. It's kind of like when you're in the church and the pastor starts speaking and they
Right.
say I'm talking to somebody in here, and you be feeling like he's talking to you directly
Yeah,
because
man.
he's just saying something. Sometimes the things that you post do that for me, or like just in general. And I'm like, damn, maybe he's going through something. But I'm like, you know
Right.
what? In this business as a producer, I'm sure like it looks nice, right? Having the plaques on the wall and people seeing that and being like, oh, that's hot. But I'm sure to collect even just that square of the wall there, it takes a lot of like crap that you got to
Yeah.
go through. Like, has it
Absolutely.
been not to talk about it too much, but from is it at this point? Do you feel like you've got a good hold on the business now, where like you just kind of understand it, you collect what you got to collect, you get where you got to go, or do you feel like like the industry now is not as fun as it was, or it's not as good as selling records to people. Like
Right.
as a producer, where does that stand? Because you have so many different legs,
Mhm.
and things that you're involved in, even with the author and stuff. Like, is music still like fun? Is getting those accolades and
Great question.
like,
Great question. Music I love, right? Music I
yeah,
love. Um, it's expression. It's freedom. It sets your soul free. You know what I'm saying? It's an amazing thing. I think the business, you know, can mess with you. The politics,
hmm
can mess with you. So when you ask that question, which is a great question, it's tough, man. It's really tough. And when you think of all of the different things that I do, it's why. Yes, I'm passionate. Yes, I love it. But you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You got to spread your eggs, man. You got to spread it out and tap into each and every single one of your gifts and your talents. I feel like in life we're all blessed with various talents. It's not just one thing that we can do. You're an
hmm
amazing shooter. You know what I'm saying? But behind that lens, you legendary. But then you obviously have the heart and the spirit and the vibe to be able to maintain relationships, create relationships, to have these type of conversations where you
hmm
allow people to be comfortable to share them, to open up and share their stories and allow it to
hmm
be a blessing to others that listen. You know what I'm saying? So we all have various gifts and talents, and I just believe that we should walk in each and every single one of them. So when there's a moment where it could be a dry season in an area, there's something else that you could be doing. Like this tour was a blessing for me. Just being honest and transparent. Like sometimes production is slow, sometimes it takes a long time for you to be paid.
yeah,
And one thing about being on tour, you're getting paid every week, like straight up, like So
mm,
I'll be like, man, I like when a tour is 2 months or a month and a half or 3 months because for that
yeah,
amount of time, that's a guaranteed check that's coming in. That's allowing for you to be able to feed yourself and your family. So it's
hmm
tough, man. It's days where I not quit, but just kind of like, you know what, I'm cool on this, man, because a lot of the politics and the business sometimes takes away from the enjoyment and
Yeah, because
being fun.
that's what I wanted to know, because I be consistent for so long, and you after a while you do it a lot, right? You get the credit, you get the names, and you see behind the curtain more than maybe the next generation that's coming, and
Right.
people are very very rah rah when they're like on
Mm-hmm.
the outside as a fan. When you were a kid, you would look at
Mm-hmm.
artists, and if you come to an artist and they won't give you autographs, sometimes a person might get mad, but you're like, you don't know if that person is dealing with a family death.
Yeah,
That
man.
that might not just be the place and time. It might not be that, oh, this
Mm-hmm.
person's
They're
a
human
jerk.
beings at the end of the day. Yeah, they're human
Yeah.
beings,
So
man.
so I guess what have you learned as a person, as a man, as a father, as a human, as a producer, all of those in one, from being around so many people for so long and dealing with so many personalities and so many
Mm-hmm.
different levels or genders, going to this new studio, seeing this female producer, young and old, because doing what you do, like I do, you get into rooms and you get around all kind of people who
Mm-hmm.
are connected to all kind of people, whether they're street people holding up
Right.
the artist or whether they're big company, recipients of all kind of stuff who are dealing with
Right.
artists.
Right.
How does that shape you in seeing the work? Because some people just see the hood, some people just
Yeah.
see white America, some people just see the trailer park life. You kind of seeing a little bit of, you've gone around a lot and seen a lot.
Hmm.
How does that shape you as a person? Does it bother you, or is it good that you see all that? Because your motivation is the kind of what I was trying to close with. This is, I see a lot of motivational
Hmm.
speaking. I see you got your doctor's degree, like,
Hmm.
so, like, I guess for seeing all of that, working from 50 Cent to Tiger to Keisha Cole to Wale to Busta Rhymes to going back to the Bronx and just seeing Abuela on the corner and being in the
Hmm.
hood to going to this, being on Lisa Evers or this news thing, that
Right.
seeing
Yeah.
so much in life. How does that shape a person? How does that make you see the world? Like,
I
what
mean,
have
I
you
think
gained from that?
it's a beautiful thing to be able to achieve and accomplish your dreams and your goals. So that's one thing, right? And I think for me, it's all a blessing. It's all a
Mm,
blessing, which is why, no matter what, I will always remain me, the person that I am. I'll always remain humble. I've never switched up on anybody. I never changed. I never act funny. You know what I'm saying? That's just not who I am. I wasn't raised that way. So you learn and you see a lot, man, and you see how people act and you see how people are. You see how people are with people and how they are when they arrive and gain a certain level of success, gain a certain, amount of money, and notoriety, and just you like, oh, I don't want to become that, or I don't want to be like him, or I don't want to be like her. And I allow it to educate me, I allow it to teach me and show me what I don't want to be and how I don't want to
mm,
be, and just keep myself grounded and just make sure that I know that I'm blessed to be in the position that I am. Is everything perfect? No. Am I filthy rich? No, not yet. I'm hustling and figuring it out just like everybody else, but at the same time, it just happened to be what I love and what I'm most passionate about. So it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like a 9 to 5. And
mm,
no disrespect to that. It just feels like I get a chance to wake up each and every single day and do what I love to do. And it just so happened that I'm able to get paid from it too. You know what I'm saying? Which makes it
mm,
even more of a blessing, man. But I don't take for granted where I am, who I am, what I've done, what I've accomplished. So I love to motivate people. I love to inspire people, to chase and live their dreams, like how I'm doing each and every single day fearlessly. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is to me. And I think that's one of the most important things for me. Like the accolades is great, the music is great, me performing, producing, the trophies, the awards. It's a beautiful thing. But one thing that I learned during the pandemic is I can't eat that. Like I can't feed
mm,
that to my family. I can't feed that
mm,
to my kids. Can I get money from it? Yes, but the point I'm making is it's not just all about that. It's
mhm,
about making impact. And people would ask me, and I feel like this is a perfect moment to share. Like, what do you want to be known for? Like, what do you want the world to remember you by? Like, and people will be shocked when I say not the music. Music is
mm,
cool. Like, a new producer is born every second. A new artist is born every second. A new song is released every a second. You know what I'm saying? And in with the new, out with the old. And it's no
mm,
disrespect to the fans. It is what it is. It's how do you keep up with or appreciate something when you get so much of it?
mhm,
So my thing is when I'm a blessing to somebody and I speak life into somebody and I encourage them to be great and live their dreams and chase their love and their passion and to not give up and to keep going and no matter what, no matter how many no's you get and how many people doubt you that you believe in
yeah,
yourself, that's what matters for me, man. Because if I inspire you, then you'll always remember me. You're gonna forget the song. You're gonna forget a record. You're gonna forget a show I might have done. And not to take anything away from myself, I'm just being a buck. But if
yeah,
I
yeah,
inspire you or motivate you or encourage you or help change your life, you're gonna always remember me. You're gonna always remember the conversation that we had. You're gonna always remember this interview that you're watching because that
mhm,
that didn't just point the finger towards me and allow the moment for just me, 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 me. No, I gave to you. I
yeah,
shared information that's going to help you. I gave you wisdom and knowledge that's going to help you. I shared my stories in hopes that you don't go through what I went through. You
yeah,
can avoid this, you can avoid that. You can avoid that hurdle. You can not run into that pothole. This is what it's all about, man. So that's for me what I want the world to remember me as a person that's filled with love, genuine, a heartfelt person that put his love and passion into the music, but also put his love and passion into people as well.
Oh. Well, I think you've achieved that from watching you over the years, even just when I would just see you, how you would just conduct yourself and energy you would always give off. Even to me, being young, coming up in the game, working behind the lens, working here, trying to grab a check here or get an opportunity there, landing something good here or that.
Hmm.
I've always seen this sort of person who's kind of got a philanthropy sort of type of energy to him, but at the same time, yeah, the music and the accolades are dope. I think
Right,
sometimes in the music industry, though, you do a lot and you realize that sometimes the glitz and glamour doesn't match the expectation of the person who assumes,
right.
oh, damn, mad plaques on the wall, mad records produced.
Yeah. Hmm.
You've got to be living like you're in the
Yeah.
Jetsons. And it's kind of like, nah, it's kind of crazy because each deal is probably different.
Absolutely.
Um, each
It's a different day,
management
man.
and ego, yeah. So it becomes like
Different
this
day.
thing where sometimes you hold to a certain pedestal and you're like, damn, well, I'm known for this, so I've got to be like this. Then there's days where you're like, I just want to be me and just do it, but you
Right.
want to have the accolades. You don't want to not be have no jewelry on your wall. It always feels
Right.
better if
Right.
you got
Yeah.
you get you poke your chest out more.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
at the same time, you still want to be humble enough to be to be fanned, to be
Yes, sir.
liked, to be
Yes,
bought
sir.
into, to be
Absolutely.
not hated because you could put yourself in an alienated situation where the big dogs kind of act funny, pull you in here and there, but you've been acting stush, so you alienate the common man, right?
Right.
So
Right.
now you're stuck on the island with the plaques, but with no love behind it, right? So
Wow. Powerful.
I, yeah, so I kind of like the balance of a producer. You are and kind of and have to be to some degree because you have to be able to say, look, I need to be in touch with the people, but I'm also here, and I'm
Hmm.
not just here. I'm also here. It's a good space to be in, and I think it's needed, to see motivation because this industry is very harsh on the ego,
Right.
and harsh on your dreams, harsh on your belief in people. I'm sure there's certain artists that you've probably worked with or seen that you're like,
Hmm.
damn, and nothing really, there's probably a lot of different things that within your Rolodex, personal Rolodex, there's so many things that you could, help,
Hmm.
young people with. So that's why,
Right.
you speaking to the UK, especially, all the young producers and just being on this side of the world is different. They love hip hop.
Absolutely.
They love,
Absolutely.
you being an elder in the game, not an older person, but just somebody
Absolutely.
that's,
Absolutely.
I'd say, in their
Experience. Yeah.
prime. Yeah, and it's come through the platinum years of hip hop and seen all these studio sessions and stuff. That's the one thing, regardless if the money doesn't match the plaques or this or that, is the amount of experience
Absolutely. Memories and
and
moments. Yeah.
moments and valuable, tangible effects that you've had on so many important people who have, put millions into big companies or millions, or just the door opening up a bit, like Sprite, or you know what I'm saying, Burger King, or this or that. Even just to collect a couple of checks from that,
Right.
coming from the Bronx is a huge testimony. So it is also good to remind yourself of how far you've come, opposed to
Absolutely.
say that producer or this producer, because there are a lot of weird, dark things in this industry
Hmm. Hmm.
that people tend to do for whatever reason. And I always say this it's funny how we'll complain about one group of people, but then we kind of do it to ourselves, and our business models are kind of matched to that, and then we kind of screw each other over, and then but at the same time those people are not really in power. So it's a very vicious game, and like you
Right.
said, politics are a funny thing. You don't know why certain people might get picked over you, or certain things get done a certain way, and so those are things you can't control. But the one thing you have controlled, Amadeus, is just being, putting good energy out, helping people who have a fighting chance, like
Absolutely.
myself in the podcast here.
Absolutely.
So, and just, who knows who you inspire on this side of the world, on the eastern side of the
Absolutely.
world,
Grateful,
you
man.
know. Have you been to London? Have you been to the UK before?
Oh yeah, one of my favorite places. We've toured
Okay.
and played a ton. I think O2. We did O2 Arena and O2, the smaller venue of O2. Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
London. I've hosted a bunch of parties out there. So yeah,
Yeah.
man. It's been years since we've been. So actually no, we just played London
Was you
last
last year?
summer.
You was here. You
Yeah,
was
we
here
played
last summer.
London
I think
last
you was
summer.
out here. But
Absolutely.
next time you come out here, we definitely got to get you out here. Is there any like artists that you listen to? Any have you ever produced anything for UK, like for anybody in the
Yeah,
UK?
I worked with an artist named Chip. I mean, he was Chip Monk at the time. He had a really dope record with
Yep.
Chris Brown,
Hmm.
and then he changed his name to Chip. So I did a record with him. I was on his mixtape. I think he was signed to Ti for a little bit, and we did a
Hmm.
really dope record with him, featuring Trey the Truth. Uh, I worked with a few
What do you
artists. I
think of the
always
UK? What do you think of the UK sound, the vibe now? Because it's become a
dope.
lot more. Yeah, it's become a lot more lively than it has. Even when I first moved here in 2015, from groups like Western to
Hmm.
Crept and Conan to all the way now. Like
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't even
familiar with
how
Cryptic
many of
Conan.
them.
Yeah, it's always a lot of artists that I thought was dope. Always a lot of artists that I wanted to actually work with, but just never was able to bridge the gap. Some people are really good with their social media, some people are not. So
Yeah.
I remember like, being in the DMs of a lot of those artists that I was fans of and trying to connect the dots and work. Hasn't happened yet. Like I said, the only artist that I really worked with over there was Chip. Man, so definitely I know you have your hands on the pulse out there and making some great networking and the connections out there. So maybe, hopefully we can do some things together and, kind of maybe try to bridge the gap between myself and a lot of the artists that's over there so we can see what we can create together, man. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, I'm always looking to do that, man, because I think it's important for especially doing a lot of work down in Brixton and being out there, and just finished shooting a video for my man Razor out there. That was pretty
Nice.
cool. Produced
Nice.
by Fredro Star.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So shout out to Fredro. He brought me on tour for the Onyx,
Nice.
tour here in London and over here in Europe. So that's cool. So I love being a part of those things, man. It's from a different diaspora, being a photographer, but
Yeah,
to be able
yeah,
to link both sides, New York and London
yeah, bro.
together, and to create something special is something that I kind of yearn for. Now that I come from the Bronx, I come from Brooklyn, I come up under guys like you and D Dub and just all
Hmm.
everybody that's doing stuff now, like, and
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
from that era to the new era of guys that's coming in now. A lot of them, because they don't have the experience, they've been intimidated. But I say you just got to get started. And
Right.
guys like you constantly putting out positive affirmation. It's true because I can imagine the amount of politics or this, just things that are just completely you putting in 100% effort, but you're not really getting what you want.
Right.
But you show perseverance because it's hard to get those placements, like you said. So to get anything
Absolutely. Hmm.
is
Absolutely.
just like it's a gangor, it's a tremendous feat. So um
Absolutely.
I would say this to at least close on everything, and I do appreciate you coming on. Is what is, I guess, I know you have the book on your life, so if you want to talk about the book a bit, so that people over here in the UK could check it out, possibly as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's the story of Amadeus. I got to
mhm.
figure out because there's a handful of fans that that wants to purchase the book, and we're just trying to kind of figuring out like the whole shipping thing and the customs thing. So that's kind of been the holdup of why I haven't gotten it, to the fans over there. But we figured something out. Maybe I just got to pull up over there and bring a case and
Or
sign
come
up.
like Santa, come like Santa
Yeah,
Claus, come
man,
through.
just pull up and bring a
Or
bunch
maybe an
of.
ebook, maybe get an ebook where they could
That's
get
but
it on like
I want them to have the actual man, like the
yeah,
actual book in their hands,
physical.
signed and signed by me. So we'll figure that out, man. I know you're out there, so we can talk offline and kind of try to figure out how we can make that happen
Oh,
and get the book out there. But the story of Amadeus and the beat goes on, and it was originally an idea because I know I go to speak to the schools and kids at schools, and I just kind of wanted to leave them something tangible. I go in there and have these conversations and motivate them, inspire them to live their dreams. Sometimes they're listening, sometimes they're not, and I just want to, allow them to have something to refer back to. You know what I'm saying? Of like, oh, I remember
mhm.
when Amadeus came to my school and, he was really dope, but I don't remember everything he said, and they could just kind of refer back to the book and see the story and all of that transpired and what I went to in order to arrive to where I'm at today. You know what I'm saying? And to create that moment, man. So it's on my website, available on my website right now. I am kingamadeus.com, www.iamkingamadeus.com. Again, we have to figure out the whole custom thing and getting it over there, but I'm sure that's something that we can figure out together. But I appreciate you bringing up the book. It's doing very well over here, and
Mm.
it's a blessing, man.
Nah, that's dope. I just and then you just became doctor, right? Doctor is
Yeah.
that is right. So how do people address you officially now? Do we call you Doctor Amadeus,
You
Doctor
can,
M?
man. I don't
Like
get
how?
caught up in that, man. It
Okay.
depends on this. It depends on the environment. when I go speak at schools, graduations, colleges,
Now, how did
you
you
know,
study for that? Did you study? Is there a specific
no, it's an
major you
honorary
did for that,
doctorate.
or
It's an
okay?
honorary
So
doctorate. So people, depending on the school will, hand select you based off of, your work and your experience and your years of whatever it is that you work towards. For me, it's music and creativity. So shout out to the Harvest Christian, uh, community for choosing me and selecting me, to have an honorary doctorate in music and music business. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It's something that I have forever. It's something that I cherish, and they base it off of experience. It's more so of having, I think, over 20 plus years in whatever the field you are in your career. There's a board that decide on whether they feel, you're worthy of the honor. With mine, I also earned the Lifetime Presidential Achievement Award as well. So I've, got a certificate and a
you get a
necklace.
lot of awards. I've seen you get a lot of awards. I
It's
think
a
yesterday
blessing, man.
you were at something
Yeah,
yesterday. I think
yesterday.
it was right. It was
Yeah, so yesterday was crazy because that I from being from the Bronx, I'm being inducted into the Bronx Walk of Fame. So basically,
yeah.
on the Grand Concourse in the Bronx, I'll have my street a name. So it'll say Antoine Amadeus Thompson, and it'll be on the street on the Grand Concourse. So that'll be there. That's
Wow.
that right there. That's not to downplay any award. The honorary doctorate is legendary. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? But that
No,
street
but
name,
that's like
that's crazy.
that's on Google Maps. That's gonna be down the
Yeah,
street.
man, that's crazy.
Yeah, your kids could take
Exactly.
pictures of that. Like
Exactly.
that's like the old president's names, Malcolm X Boulevard, all that stuff on
Right.
there. So
Yeah, it's legendary,
yeah,
bro. So
yeah, that's pretty
just
cool,
moving and
man.
shaking, and I'll end with this. Like when you set out to do things, whether it's me, and all of this is from music. Right? Like me, I just set out to want to be the one of the best musicians and producers that I can be, not comparing myself to anyone else, but just wanting to challenge myself and be great at what I do. And I can honestly say I've been blessed to accomplish that. And so everything that's coming along with it is it's a surprise. Like it's shocking. And even giving back to my community and inspiring people and talking to schools and the kids, you don't do that for accolades. I don't do that for accolades. I do
Hmm.
that to be a true blessing to people. So when you start earning these accolades and awards and rewards and doctorates and I never, it's all a surprise and a shock to me. I didn't expect any of that. So I think that's what makes it even more enjoyable when you receive these things and it's like, man, I didn't look for this. I didn't look for a clap or a pat on the back from being a blessing to somebody. I know God, sees what I'm doing. These are people that's going to live their dreams because of a conversation that we have or be inspired because of this interview and conversation that we're having. Like that's
Hmm.
enough for me. So that to receive anything extra, man, is an extra blessing, man. And I'm humbled. I'm grateful. I don't take it lightly. There's still a ton of more work to do. So I will always continue as long as I have breath in my body to strive and give the world and share the world excellence. And I'm grateful, again, grateful for you to have me here today, to spread my story and share my story and my wisdom and knowledge with the whole UK. Salute to everybody that's out there. We inspire one another. We inspire each other. It's not about just the US and New York and the Bronx. And nah, we inspire each other. Just like there's greatness here, there's greatness over there. And I've been inspired by the UK for years. Sometimes not even knowing that it was the UK that was introducing us to a sound or a vibe or a sound or pronunciation, you know what I'm saying,
Hmm.
or
Yep.
movement. So salute to every producer, every artist, every creator, whether it's a shooter just like you that's holding the camera that wants to be like you, or art or producer or musician that's like me on the drums out there, hoping and inspiring that one day they'll live this dream. Man, you can do this just like that's like we are doing it, and just know it ain't easy. It's hard, but you got to have that commitment and that level of focusness and that belief in oneself. Even if you're the only person in the entire world that believes in you, take
Wow.
yourself and figure it out and make it happen.
Well, listen, you heard it from the one and only Amadeus himself. Ain't nobody gonna be able to tell you better. I mean, listen, between the accolades and the craft and the work and the time put in and the inspiration given to others, this gentleman definitely has you know what I'm saying, a fact to stand on there. So just take it from him, take it from myself. Everybody in the UK, tap in with my brother Amadeus, check him out online on social media, website. I don't know if you want to give the handles out one more time before we go.
Absolutely. Instagram. I'm really, really, really on in IG. Twitter,
Yeah, yeah,
IG,
holla, yeah.
IG, Amadeus PBM, AMADEUS PBM. Again, that's AMADEUS PBM on Instagram. My website again is www.iamkingamadeus.com. That'll keep you updated on everything that I have going on with the book, the touring, my schedule in Vegas. If you're ever out in Vegas and want to come see me at Drais Night Club, IG will keep you in tune to everything that I'm doing. I'm very, very vocal on there, very consistent on there. So anything that has to do with King Amadeus, holler at me on Instagram. My brother, again, I appreciate you again for this opportunity, for this moment,
No,
to share
thank
my
you for your
story with you,
time.
man. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
my
thank
brother.
you, man. No doubt, man. It's me, Demetrius, my man King Amadeus, and we are here on the Creative Vibe Podcast, episode 12. We're signing out. Stay tuned, stay blessed.